Hey, good morning, everybody. This is your good old buddy Choppodong coming at you again with another Bankroll Challenge video series. This time, instead of a written article, I'm going to probably switch this format over. It's a quicker way to process information, kind of keep track of the bankroll, as well as talk a little bit more in detail. The writing of that article really gets involved because I try to give you my thoughts, and sometimes it just rambles around in my head, and that's a lot faster to do in a video format than it is writing out articles all the time where you have to kind of try and stay on point. And people don't want to read novels, and especially when it's a bankroll challenge, you just want to kind of see the results, hear the thoughts, see if you can't glean anything from it, and move on. If you don't know who I am, you can follow me on Twitter at Choppodong. You can also find me inside the DFS Army. There will be a link in the description of this video to get you into the DFS Army if you're interested. Cover all major sports. We have optimizers in all major sports. MLB is coming shortly, but all the other, even NASCAR, golf, we have optimizers for all of it. Our guys have been killing it, honestly, from NBA on as this optimizer has gone through its bug fixes and gotten better and better and better. We probably bring more value than any other DFS site, and I say that from my vantage point. I've bounced around and explored around a little bit and tested other sites, and I just don't see anybody doing all of the things that we do and bringing the real-time advice through our Slack channels. Yeah, everybody talks and communicates, but how many of the coaches are actually really involved and in there every day? And if you tag them, they get back to you with a question. I don't see that happen in the other premium sites. So if you're looking for a community and you're looking for a place to get better, somebody that will hold your hand, somebody that will coach you, somebody that will bring you forward, you can continue following me for free. You can latch on to some of our other coaches, or you can come inside the DFS Army and get us all in the same place where you can access us all and actually watch us all banter back and forth, because we don't always agree on what we talk about. So I've noticed a lot of people have improved by just using that alone. And what, for 20 bucks a month or 25 bucks a month, that price won't stay like that forever, guys. But for that price, goodness, it's half price of what the rest of the industry brings to you. So give it a thought, give it some consideration. The link is in the description below. If you follow my bankroll challenge, you've noticed we've gotten off to a pretty slow start. I don't play every slate, and we'll get into that. I'm going to put a video out for our VIPs a little bit later breaking down the slate. If you follow Chin Music on Twitter or on our website, I'll give you an at-a-glance version, but I'm going to dive in a little deeper today and go through some concepts of where I'm going to attack this slate today, if I'm going to attack it, how, where, all that stuff. I want to try and dive a little deeper again with the video format. And really hope to get guys, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of quick read scanning type material and get it in and get it out. That way you're not reading all the time. Plug your earbud in, listen to it on the train on the way home, whatever you got to do, and just get the information kind of processed, give you something to think about, and hopefully interact a little bit back and forth through comment sections and stuff like that. Got off to a little bit of a slow start here with really missing some caches, playing these single entry GPPs, which again, that's going to come and go. Nobody's going to cash in those 80% of the time, or, whatever. That's just the way it goes. We're getting back on track a little bit in the last couple of times. We barely missed the cash line here. Well, not barely, I guess. But what I'm doing is I'm tracking my score, my place, the min cash number, and then I like 5%, 1%, and win lines. And the reason why is it helps me track whether I should have been in maybe a 20-man league, a 100-man league, or in the GPP to begin with. What I'm trying to prove to you guys through this bankroll challenge is by playing some of the smaller leagues, the 10-man, 20-man, 100-man leagues, you can grind up a bankroll while you're waiting to hit your big score in a GPP. It's much easier to build say a top 10% lineup than it is to build a lineup that beats 12,000 people in a GPP. I think that is incredible common sense, and everybody gets that inherently. But what I don't think people are understanding is how top heavy those GPPs are. You have to be well inside the top 1% to trigger the big paydays. If you build a 1% lineup, something that beats 99% of the world, you're going to trigger, I don't know, sometimes 8x. You put in $1, you get back $8. You might get $10 out of a GPP. However, if you build that 1% lineup and put it in a smaller 100-man league, you have a chance at winning that league, and winning it pays 25x. That gap between 8x and 25x is a monster boost to your bankroll, and nobody in the industry talks about it. Everybody tells you to go chase the big prize, and I'll show you how to win tournaments. Screw those. I want you to be winning 100-man and 20-man leagues with regularity while you're waiting to hit a big GPP score. So I track them all, and I show you kind of where we fit in. We've done some of these in the past with what we've covered here. You know that I like to play smaller GPPs when I find them. The 4,000 person tourney that I played, Friday night or Saturday, whatever it was, did okay, had an okay score. Cash line was 160, got over it by 8 points. It was enough to trigger, $5 or whatever. It was a $2 GPP. So what I get, I min cashed it or whatever. But what I did is I also threw this in a couple of 10-man leagues. You can see there was a net gain of about $5.50. So softened some of the damage that we've taken along the way. Usually you're going to get something back when you play those leagues alongside. You can see I've only had 2 bricks on 6 tries. So I'm not down the total number of fees I've put out. I've been getting some of it back, and really all that is a cash game element to the GPP chase, which is another thing that I like to preach, where you run 80% of your budget into cash game or cash type games, and then you put the other 20% into some GPP exposure, because you never know when that lineup's going to go off, and you really don't know that in baseball. You really never know. So you always want to get yourself in position to where if the night does happen, you're there and you're ready. But in the meantime, you want to take the bulk of your budget on a daily basis, and you want to put it down there in those cash games, the more frequent wins, so that you can either recuperate the money that you're putting out in the GPPs, or so that you can grind up a little bit of a bankroll in the process, and maybe the slow burn keeps you around longer to hit that big score. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, who knows? When you're playing a 10,000 person tournament, you just aren't going to win them very often, if ever. That just comes with the territory. So knowing that, you need to keep yourself around as long as possible if you're like all of us and you just want to chase that big score. So you can see that we repaired some of the damage finally with a profitable slate, instead of some of these slight losses where we're getting some of our money back. So hopefully we're turning the corner. Hopefully we get on a little bit more of what we were doing in April and May before I started this challenge, and what made me want to start this challenge. If I look at the leagues that I played, well, we could walk through this score. I can show you. I chose Jimmy Nelson because he had as much upside as anybody else, and with Scherzer, Kluber, who else was on the slate Saturday? Jimmy Nelson has as much upside as those guys did, and to be honest with you, he was $2,000 some odd cheaper. Where I made my mistake was dropping in. I did okay with the Mets stack. I dropped in the Atlanta, bottom of the order mini stack with Suzuki and who was my other guy, Camargo down there, and they didn't do great. I really thought those guys were in a great spot. And when Atlanta scores 8 runs and your 2 hitters only get you about 15 points, that feels like a major letdown. And I really and truly, the only thing that held me back off of the New York stack, Duda was okay for the price. Rivera was a great value play, and we called him out in a lot of places. Conforto kind of dropped the dud on us. Bruce hit the bomb, and believe it or not, this is how DFS goes. Bruce was not in my lineup originally. I put him in there because I thought, well, what the hell, I'll do a complete stack. Instead, I took Reddick, JJ Reddick out from Houston, and thought, well, I'll just fade off Houston completely, and I'll go with Bruce instead because he's got a little bit more power than Reddick, and boom, he runs into a 3-run homer. And I almost came back 20 minutes before slate lock and put Reddick back in there because I almost fell to some recency bias or some herd mentality, where I saw a bunch of chatter on Twitter about how great a play Reddick was, and I knew that, but I almost let that influence me. I just felt like this was a little bit better if Bruce gets in there with a couple of these guys on base, bam, pops a home run. I got lucky there, but it worked out. It paid out. It's a reason that I cashed. But so the main idea here was the New York stack. I thought they were in the best spot. I went with a little mini Atlanta stack. They were set to score a lot of runs. They did. It just didn't work out for me. The one-off in Daniel Murphy was, something that panned out fairly well. And then the other, I guess it wasn't a one-off because I had him mini stacked with Bryce Harper. And, they did all right too. If you look at your offenses, 9 out of New York, 10 out of Washington, 8 out of Atlanta. Jimmy Nelson got the win. I mean, what the hell else could you ask for? That's why it cashed in a GPP. When it cashes in a GPP, and a lot of times I'll make different lineups as I go, but when it cashed in a GPP, it also hit the leagues that I played it in pretty hard. I will a lot of times run slightly different lineups just to kind of mix and match so something hits. This time I didn't. I just played in these two little 10-man leagues, ended up third in one and popped a second in another, and that's where the rest of the profit came from. So when it comes right down to it, that's all you're trying to do with hedging these. And if you follow me, we'll go on a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. You'll get a little bit more insight to how I play. I didn't lay it out too well today, trying to get into the groove of the video thing. But if you follow me, you'll figure out more why. So this is just a quick 10 minutes. We'll go bust up that slate a little bit later. And for those of you that are in the DFS army, you will hear a little bit more deeper thoughts on how the slate's going to play today and how to maybe attack it. So follow me over there, and we'll kick this one out here in a little bit. See you guys.